What are your top priorities as a candidate for the Board of Selectmen?
As many of you know me, I have been serving the town of Kingston for almost 19 years now on the Finance Committee, the Zoning Board of Appeals, as the elected treasurer, and now back again on the Finance Committee as the chairperson. I have decided that this is a good time to run for selectman and see what I can do to continue my service to the town on that organization. My priorities right now are to look at the finances again. As you know, we have had some troubling times in the last couple of years concerning town budgets. As a chairman of the Finance Committee over the last few years, I've strived to do two things. Number one, have a budget that serves the community, that provides the services that residents desire. At the same time, having some budgets that are sustainable. We've always strived to have somewhere between $1 and $3 million as excess levy capacity. What that means is that we don't tax residents every last dollar. We maintain a reserve, in effect, of $1 to $3 million, where if a real big emergency came up, we can go to another town meeting and we can ask residents to appropriate that money for whatever we might need in the emergency. We also have strived strenuously to maintain a free cash balance of $1 million to $2 million. Free cash is what allows us to be able to purchase big items, such as the 3 fire engines that we've purchased or have on order right now, such as police cruisers every year. This year, we're looking at a budget that is very tight, that we have eliminated all of the excess levy capacity. My idea on working to become a selectman is to work strenuously to get us back to that position where we have excess levy capacity, where we have room for financial emergencies. How do we do that? There are two different ways that you can control your costs in a town. You can reduce your spending or certainly maintain spending at a current level, and you can seek additional revenue items. On the Board of Selectmen, I would hope to work hard to maximize the revenue opportunities that we have in town. We need to bring in more commercial business. As a lot of you know, we get about 90% of our tax revenue from residential people as opposed to commercial businesses. I would also like to see us strive to maintain good relations with schools. We need to work on having funding for the schools at a sustainable level. Additional items that I'm interested in doing with the selectmen is working to make sure we get accurate information out. If we're going to do a new development in town for whatever it might be, whatever kind of business, to make sure that it's communicated to the town residents as to what that business means, how it's going to function, how it's going to be a positive for the town. I also would like to continue to see that the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, the Sewer Commission, the Water Department, all work as well together as they possibly can. I think these items are really the reasons I'm running for selectman. I would like to be able to continue to bring the kind of experience that I have with the town, to bring the collaboration and cooperation that I think I'm known for with other departments, with employees, with the unions. We need to think out of the box when it comes to some of these commercial ventures. We need to make sure that everyone is on the same page. We have to work hard as a Board of Selectmen to ensure that we're doing what's best for a vast majority of townspeople. I'm afraid that there's always going to be 5 or 10% of the people that may be negatively impacted by something that we want to do. But if it's favorable to 80, 90% of the town, I think we need to work to make it as minimally adverse to those 5 or 10% and to move things along and get the things done that need to have done. With that, I think that that's the answer to the question, and I am ready to move on. Thank you.
What challenges do you see as a candidate for the Board of Selectmen?
I see several challenges for the Board of Selectmen. The number one being the finances of the next 5 years. That we have struggled with the budget for this year. Our educational budget always is 50 to 55% of the total budget. The education budget last year was an increase of over 10%. That's what was our first problem in maintaining the kind of excess levy capacity we like. This year, the local school budget has increased by 7%. Fortunately, the Silver Lake assessment budget for us is only about 2.5%, so that our net education budget this year is 4.5% to 5%, which again is a challenge when you're living with 2.5%, proposition a 2.5% increase, and probably another 1 to 1.5% increase based upon new growth. So we try to have town budgets in Kingston around 3.5% to 4%. Again, what we need is commercial growth if we're going to be able to have budgets of 4 or 5% increases. What we need to, the Board of Selectmen need to work with the schools. We need to see how we can do things such as where right now the town is looking at bringing together the 3 towns to be 100% regionalized. Right now, the high school and the middle school are regionalized. Grades kindergarten through 6 are not regionalized. We have separate school committees that are totally separate. We think that we can save some money by bringing them together. That project's just getting underway. I look forward, if I'm elected, to being on that committee and working to see if we can save some money there. Another challenge that I see for the Board of Selectmen is working with the townspeople on commercial development. That we always seem to have one small minority group or another that does everything they can to stop a project as it's being developed. We need, as a Board of Selectmen, to work to make sure people understand the positives of those developments, understand that the minor problems that may come about will be handled. We'll work with you to get around those issues. I believe that the Board of Selectmen also have a challenge to work with all town departments. Kingston traditionally has had a separate sewer commission, wastewater. We've had a separate water department. We're looking at bringing the water department and the wastewater department in under a director of public works who would report to the town administrator, and we would hope bring those 2 functions closer together, all of us working in the same way. We would continue to have the separate committees, commissions, the Water Commission and the Wastewater for the time being, but there may be a place down the road where we would want to consider how we're going to manage those. How does the Board of Selectmen treat all departments the same? How do we fund the fire department, the police department, the public safety departments, the same way we fund the education departments? We need to work hard to make sure that we're treating all functions fairly, trying to finance things in a progressive way. Fourth challenge that I see for the Board of Selectmen is we're going to have to do some debt financing sooner than later. we're talking about new roofs being required for both our intermediate school and our elementary school. These will probably cost order of magnitude $10 million in total. Expect the state to pay approximately half of it, so there's $5 million that will need long-term bond financing. We know that our road infrastructure needs improvements. That could be upwards of $5 or $10 million. We know that we need a new police station. We've talked a lot about building a new police station with perhaps an addition to our fire station. Those two projects alone would cost anywhere from $20 to $30 million, I suspect. So in the next 5 to 10 years, we are probably going to be looking at debt financing of somewhere between $20 and $30 million a year. When you add your interest to that, you're talking $40 to $50 million. You pay it off over, say, 25 years, you're talking $2 million a year in debt service added to the operating budget. That's a financial problem for the Board of Selectmen to deal with. All in all, I think that these are what I consider the major items on the agenda for the Selectmen over the next year or 2 or 3 years, the term that I'll be in there, and I look forward to working to help resolve a lot of these issues.
What opportunities do you see as a candidate for the Board of Selectmen?
I see the opportunity to enhance the day-to-day performance of the Board of Selectmen. I would bring my experience in almost 19 years of serving the town on the zoning board, the finance committee, and as an elected treasurer. I've worked closely with the town administrations. I've worked closely with the school committees and the school administration. I know the people involved. I think that I have had a history of being able to find ways to compromise. I think that in our society today, we see a lack of compromise, that everyone thinks they're 100% correct and that the opponent or the opposite side is 100% wrong. I believe strongly in developing what I call win-win outcomes. In that way that perhaps I'm going to get 75 or 80% of what I think we need to do, and I hope the other side of the fence can find a way of getting 75 or 80% of what they want to do, so that we end up, neither one of us getting what we all want, but we end up with solutions and plans and programs that perhaps give us each a good part of what we need, and the total result is that we're all better off than we were before we started. I think that the cooperation that I can bring to the Board of Selectmen, I think that over the last 19 years, I've been able to get along with what I call the far right, the far left, and the middle ground. I think that there's always going to be 10 or 15% of the people pretty far to the right side. There's going to be another 10 or 15 far to the left side, and probably 70 or 80% of us in the middle. I pride myself on being able to work with all three types of organizations and people, that we need to find ways of working together and not to just ignore the needs and desires of any one part of the equation, no matter how few it is, how many people are involved. I think that my ability to find ways of collaborating, cooperating, and always working with different people to come out with positive outcomes. I would work with that within the Board of Selectmen, outside of the Board of Selectmen. I would work with other departments. I would work with the schools. I would work with the public safety people to find ways that we can all do things in a better way for Kingston. I think there's some opportunities out there to think outside the box. For instance, we've talked in other years about, are there any things that we provide as town services that should be self-supporting? We have our transfer station. I think at least every 3 years since I've been in town, we talk about making that self-supporting. Well, perhaps for various reasons, we decide we don't want it to be self-supporting, that the expense would be too much. But maybe we can come up with some kind of a compromise. Right now, we probably get about 40% of the cost of that service from the fees of people using it. Perhaps we can move it to 60%. We can generate more revenue there, and we can continue to have it 40% or more supported by town finances. Think outside the box when we look at some of the potential developments in town. That, having served on the Zoning Board of Appeals, I went through some 40B project developments. People automatically think 40B is negatives. They don't have to be negatives. The Zoning Board, the Planning Board, the Board of Selectmen all can work with these types of developments to make them good developments for the town. We have ways of compromising, of getting some positive outcomes. Perhaps as an example, the developer wasn't going to put in sidewalks. Now we work with him to put in sidewalks. Perhaps the developer was going to have a lot of 3 and 4 bedroom apartments. Maybe we only want 1 and 2 bedroom apartments to minimize the number of occupants that impact the schools, etc. Other developments, we need to make sure we're communicating with everybody on what they're going to do, how positive they're going to be to the town. We need to work with the marketing people. We need to work with state people looking for all the grants that we can possibly get. When we put in the wastewater treatment plant expansion a few years ago, we got some state grants that in total were, if my recollection is correct, over $6 million. We need to continue to look for those types of things. The opportunities are out there. We have to think out of the box, and we have to always work on what we see as being sustainable and being the best opportunities for the town for not only the current year, but 5 years, 10 years down the road. It is my great pleasure to be running for selectman here in Kingston. As I've said before, I have served the town for almost 19 years. I've enjoyed every moment on the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Finance Committee, and being your elected treasurer. I believe that I have made a difference in the town of Kingston. I have tried to be the financial voice of reason. It's always a balancing act that we have to do when we come to financing. We want to provide the level and quality of town services that Kingston residents deserve and have come to respect. We also need to recognize that we have to keep real estate taxes at a level that people can afford. We need to work to balance that out, that it's always a challenge, that you do not have unlimited funds. You want to support the services that are required, but you want to minimize the real estate taxes that we need. I believe that we can continue to do those types of things by being more proactive in looking for commercial business development. We need to work with the schools to see that we can get back to the average of 4-5% increases that we used to have, that it is not sustainable to be able to do 10 and 7% increases. I am the first one to believe strongly in education. I have said before, I believe that education is the #1 responsibility of local government. I believe that close behind that is public security, public safety, police and fire. We need to take care of our police and fire departments. We need to have our road infrastructure stay up to date. Those 4 items, education, public safety, road infrastructure, are by far the most important aspects of government in my view. I believe that the role of the Board of Selectmen is to provide the leadership and the management of those functions to see that we're providing the town with the most that we can for our limited dollars. I believe that we need to always work to become a more responsible town for all residents, for the young people in our schools, for the senior people who are retired and living on fixed incomes. I believe that the opportunities for the selectmen to get involved in these types of things are out there. I, for one, since I've been in town, have attended many, many meetings, sometimes too many meetings. I try to go to almost every selectmen's meeting. I try to attend almost all regional school committee meetings. I go to many local school committee meetings. I go to planning board meetings. I go to zoning board meetings. I have been on the capital planning committee and go to some of those meetings still. I'm currently on the committee for community planning. It's a way of staying involved, and I have elected to be your selectman. I promise to continue to do the things that I have done in the last 19 years. I promise that I will be available to take your phone calls, to take your emails, to take your texts, to answer questions. I won't promise to always agree with you, but I will promise that you'll know where I stand. I've been told before that Carl Pike is always somebody that is upfront and who will let you know when he believes strongly in something or when he strongly opposes something. I will try to continue to be that person. I look forward to the election. I look forward to answering any questions that you have over the next 5 or so weeks before the election. And I look forward to working as a Board of Selectmen member if you see fit to elect me to that position. Thank you.